As I walked through the abandoned streets of the small town, the eerie silence sent shivers down my spine. The only sound that could be heard was the cold wind howling through the deserted buildings. I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease as I made my way towards the outskirts of town, where the old asylum stood. The townspeople had always warned me to stay away from the abandoned asylum, but my curiosity got the best of me. I had heard rumors about the place, about the unspeakable horrors that took place within its walls. Some claimed that it was haunted by the tortured souls of the patients who were mistreated and left to die there. Others said that it was cursed by an evil spirit that possessed anyone who dared to enter. But I didn't believe in such superstitions. I was a rational person, and I wanted to see the asylum for myself. As I approached the rusted gates, I couldn't help but notice the words etched on the entrance, "Echoes of the Forgotten Asylum." Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the gates and entered the asylum. The first thing that struck me was the darkness and the musty smell that hung in the air. I pulled out my flashlight and clicked it on, illuminating the path ahead of me. As I walked through the long, dark corridors, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. Every creak and whisper made me jump, and I couldn't deny that I was starting to feel scared. But I refused to let my fear get the best of me and continued exploring. I soon came across a large room with a broken window, and the moonlight filtered through, casting an eerie glow. In the center of the room, there was a wheelchair, and I could almost imagine a ghostly figure sitting in it, staring at me. I quickly moved on, not wanting to dwell on my imagination. As I continued my exploration, I heard faint whispers and cries coming from the walls. It sounded like the tortured souls of the patients, begging for release. But I brushed it off, telling myself that it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But then, I heard a loud bang, and my heart started racing. I turned around and saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was a woman with long black hair and a tattered hospital gown. Her eyes were empty, and her skin was pale, almost translucent. I froze in fear as she started to walk towards me, her arms outstretched. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The woman got closer and closer, and I could feel her icy touch on my skin. Suddenly, the lights flickered on, and the woman disappeared into thin air. I stood there, panting and trying to catch my breath, but the worst was yet to come. As I turned around, I saw a group of ghostly figures standing in front of me, their eyes filled with anger and pain. They were the patients of the asylum, the forgotten ones, and they were haunting me for disturbing their resting place. I screamed and ran towards the exit, not looking back. I could hear their voices echoing behind me, taunting me, reminding me that I should have listened to the warnings. As I burst through the gates and into the safety of the outside world, I promised myself never to return to that cursed place again. Years have passed since that terrifying night, but the memories still haunt me. I can still hear the echoes of the forgotten asylum, and I know that I will never be able to forget the horrors that I witnessed. The asylum may have been abandoned, but its ghosts will never be forgotten. I never imagined that my summer job as a caretaker at Deadwood Manor would turn out to be the most terrifying experience of my life. The grand estate, situated in the outskirts of town, had always intrigued me with its Gothic architecture and eerie atmosphere. Little did I know, it held dark secrets that would haunt me forever. As I entered the manor for the first time, the musty smell and dim lighting sent shivers down my spine. The owner, Mr. Jameson, had warned me about strange occurrences happening in the manor, but I brushed it off as mere superstitions. However, on my first night, I realized that there was more to this place than meets the eye. I was deep in my sleep when I suddenly woke up to the sound of footsteps coming from the hallway. I dismissed it as my imagination and tried to go back to sleep, but the sound grew louder and closer. Fearing that it might be an intruder, I cautiously got out of bed and followed the sound. To my horror, the footsteps led me to a locked room in the basement. I tried to shake off the feeling of dread that engulfed me and decided to investigate the room the next day. However, every night, I would be woken up by the same sound and find myself standing in front of the locked room. It was as if something was drawing me towards it. As days went by, I noticed strange things happening in the manor. Objects would move on their own, and I would often catch glimpses of a shadowy figure in the corner of my eye. The once beautiful and serene manor now felt like a prison, and I couldn't wait for my job to end. One night, as I was standing in front of the locked room, I heard a whisper coming from inside. It was a woman's voice, pleading for help. My curiosity got the best of me, and I used a spare key to unlock the room. What I saw inside sent chills down my spine. The room was filled with old photographs and newspaper clippings, all related to a young woman who used to live in the manor. She was the daughter of the previous owner, and rumors were that she had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. As I dug deeper, I found out that she was kept locked in this very room, tortured and left to die. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder, and when I turned around, I saw the same shadowy figure I had been seeing around the manor. It was the ghost of the young woman, and she was seeking revenge on those who had wronged her. In a state of panic, I ran out of the manor and never looked back. The next day, I found out that the manor had been abandoned for years, and Mr. Jameson had only hired me as a ploy to find someone who could uncover the truth. As for me, I never returned to Deadwood Manor. The experience had scarred me for life, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that the young woman's spirit was still trapped in that place, seeking justice for her tragic death. From that day on, I stayed away from anything related to the supernatural, never wanting to be reminded of the horrors I had witnessed at Deadwood Manor. I never believed in the supernatural. Ghosts, demons, all of it seemed like nothing more than a figment of someone's imagination. That was until I encountered the demon. I was a young journalist, always chasing after the next big story. My current assignment was to investigate a series of mysterious deaths in the small town of Blackwood. The townspeople were too afraid to talk, but I was determined to uncover the truth. As I drove down the deserted road leading to Blackwood, I couldn't shake off the eerie feeling that crept up my spine. The town was surrounded by dense forests, giving off a foreboding atmosphere. The sky was dark and stormy, adding to the ominous vibe. I arrived at the town's only inn, a rundown building with peeling paint and broken windows. The innkeeper, an old man with a hunched back, eyed me suspiciously as I checked in. He warned me to leave before it was too late, but I brushed off his warning as superstition. That night, as I sat in my room, going over my notes, I heard a strange noise coming from the hallway. I cautiously opened the door, but there was no one there. I shrugged it off as my imagination and went back to work. But the noises continued, getting louder and more persistent. I decided to investigate, and as I walked down the hallway, I felt a cold breeze and heard a low growling sound. My heart raced as I realized that I was not alone. I quickly made my way back to my room and locked the door, hoping it was just my overactive imagination. But the next morning, I woke up to find strange marks on my body, as if someone had clawed at me in my sleep. I was terrified, and I knew I had to find out what was going on in this town. I spent the day talking to the locals, but no one would give me a straight answer. They all seemed to be hiding something, and the fear in their eyes was palpable. I knew I had to dig deeper. That night, I decided to explore the forest surrounding the town. As I made my way through the dense trees, I heard a voice whispering my name. I turned around, but there was no one there. I felt a chill run down my spine, and I knew that I was being watched. I found myself in a clearing, and in the center, there was a circle of candles. And in the middle of the circle, there was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. It was tall and had long, sharp claws. Its eyes were glowing red, and its mouth was twisted into a menacing grin. I was paralyzed with fear as it approached me, its long arms reaching out to embrace me. I could feel its hot breath on my neck as it whispered my name. I knew I was face to face with the demon that haunted this town. I tried to run, but it was too late. The demon's embrace was suffocating, and I could feel its sharp claws digging into my skin. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end. But then, I felt a sudden warmth spreading through my body. It was as if someone was wrapping me in a protective blanket. I opened my eyes to see the demon retreating, its eyes filled with fear. I stumbled back to the inn, shaken and confused. The old innkeeper looked at me with pity in his eyes and told me the truth. The town of Blackwood was cursed by a demon who preyed on the innocent. But every few years, a chosen one would be born, with the power to resist the demon's embrace. I realized that I was that chosen one, and the demon knew it too. It had tried to destroy me, but I had survived. I left Blackwood, never looking back, grateful to be alive. From that day on, I never doubted the existence of the supernatural. The demon's embrace was a reminder that some things are beyond our understanding, and it's better not to meddle with them.